Welcome into Press Box Live, and we are brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get your roof damage repaired for just the cost of your deductible, or go to c3america.com now to get a free roof inspection. Welcome in. I'm Stan the Fan Charles from Press Box, along with my co-host Ross Grimsley. And Ross, we're honored to have with us the bench coach of the Baltimore Orioles, and that is Fredi Gonzalez. Fredi,
Yes, sir.
thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward to it.
Um, just wanted to ask you right off to start off with the decision to leave Miami a year ago and come to the Orioles. I know you have a personal relationship with Brandon for a long time, but that means there must have been a calculation that this was a better situation for you. Could you talk a little bit about what you saw attractive here in Baltimore?
Well, Stan, I think it was a situation that I love Don Mattingly, and I had a lot of ties there in Miami. I managed that club when the first time I had an opportunity to manage in the big leagues, and I I lived there, grew up there. Parents are there, my brothers and sisters and their families there. But it was time to leave. It was time to go. It was like, you know what? I've been a third base coach. I wanted to do a little bit more than just being the third base coach. Not that it's not a big responsibility, but
Yeah.
it's like I needed more, right? Kind of like the juices to flow more. And I took a leap of faith. I didn't know what was going on with the Baltimore Orioles, and I decided not to go back to Miami. I interviewed with the Mets bench coach job at the time with Carlos Beltran, and I'm glad that didn't come to fruition. And I knew that the Orioles were looking for a bench coach, but I didn't know anything, and I didn't sign until almost the last week of December of 2019, going for the 2020 season. I think that the relationship with Brandon and also Tim Cousin helped, and I will tell you this: other than managing 10 years in the big leagues, that 2020 year, last year's season was really, really fruitful for me. I really enjoyed it. I really love coming home. I really love the relationship that Brandon and I build, and Tim, and running a game, and the way they have brought me into the organization. I was really fulfilled that professionally.
Did Brandon say to you, was there a conversation where I want you to be my guy that's thinking along with me, next to me, so if I miss something, you're the guy that's the one to pick up?
Yes, we did. We have that conversation, and I think we have that trust. And this guy doesn't miss very much, Dan. This guy is pretty good. He's pretty
Yeah,
prepared.
he's
I
very good.
love, yeah, I love sitting there next to him, and every once in a while he'll run something by me, and I'm like, yeah, that's good. I'm there. Very few times that I need to that he misses something, then I need to catch up. I really, in the 60 game season, I could have probably counted in one hand what I said. Hey, what do you think about this? Or let's get this guy up a little bit earlier than now. But other than that, this guy he's a he's solid, and watching him go through the 2020 season, that we had the COVID-19, we had all those protocols, we had the social unrest that was happening in the summertime, and here's a young manager handling all this and handling him extremely well. And me just sitting back and watching, I'm going, listen, I got 10 years of major league experience in management. I don't know if I can handle it any better than what you've done. And so he's terrific. He's growing. He's learning, and I'm glad just to be a part of it.
Ross, go ahead. You got Fredi.
Yeah, Fredi, how familiar are you with the Oriole organization? I know you just signed, like you said, in December. I'm sure you've done a lot of homework. What's your knowledge of it so far?
Well, Ross, I'm learning every day. I signed in December of 19, and going into spring training, you start to get to know that spring training of 2020, you feel like you know the roster a little bit, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of it, we had to stop, right? And everybody disappears for, I think it was 2.5 months. And so when we
Right.
came back in July, it was only 40 guys. So, and I only got to see, I think, 35 of those guys. The other guys that were in the alternate site. But every day I learn. Every day we pick up the game reports. Every time, we have Zoom calls all the time. We end up talking to players. Um, we talk about players all the time. I think this week coming up, I have 7 Zoom calls lined up, you know, from the player development side. So I'm gonna get to know the players a little bit more as the organization. I really am happy to see or excited to see the players that they came up last year a little bit. You know, the Mountcastles, you know, the Aikens, the kids that came out and pitched well, and you get excited about those kids. You got to see a right fielder for me last year. Anthony Santander might have been one of the best players I've ever laid my eyes on, and I seen some good ones. And unfortunately, you know, we lost him for the last 20 games of the season, but this guy's going to be a special.
What about, you know, the Orioles? They've never dealt into the international market before to the extent that they have now. Can you elaborate a little bit on how important that is to an organization and what it means to the Orioles?
Ross, I think that's the backbone of any organization, right? I mean, it's the draft is the draft. You only get to pick, you know, when you could dive into the international or the world, right, and get players from the world, whether it's Latin America or Asia or wherever. It is big, and I think you're absolutely right. I think Mike Elias has done a conscientious job here the last couple of years or 3 years now. He's taken over to get players to go to Latin America, to go to some of these other countries and get players, because the draft is the draft, and you know it's there's only I don't know, handful of guys that you could get, and then it gets pretty expensive there in the top, you know, as we know, in the top, you know, couple of rounds. But you know, I think Mike is doing a very nice job in going into Latin America and trying to expand that you know that area.
Freddie, I want to jump in and ask you kind of the 8,000-pound elephant question in the room involving taking over a rebuilding ball club as a manager. And I was reading a little about you. It turns out you were up for that 2017, the Tigers job, when Ron Gardenhire took over. And Brandon took over a team like this. And you were fortunate enough in Atlanta, you didn't take over a major rebuild or anything like that. Miami is sort of always rebuilding to a
We
certain
rebuild it, yes. Yeah.
extent. Yeah. So, you know, the 8,000-pound question that I've asked Brandon on a couple of occasions is about taking over a team where your win-loss record is going to be lousy for three to 4 years. And is it sort of a known that I might not be here at the end when we're getting better, or, you know, is that something you kind of put blinders on and just focus at the job at hand?
Stan, that is a great question, and I think I'm going to try to answer as best I can, because I, I, I in 2007 with the Marlins, we had a payroll of whatever $12 million or whatever it was. It was really,
Ross and
really,
I
really.
make that. Ross and I make that much doing these Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really low, and so we were able to develop these players, right? And then in 2009, you know, it was the Dan Uglas, the Hanley Ramirez's, all those guys. And in 2009, we win 87 games. I can't remember now the exact number, 87, 89 games. And then in 2010, halfway through, we were in Baltimore actually, and I got fired, you know, with I think we were just about a game or two below 500 for whatever reason. You know, the owner wanted to make a change, and he made a change, and you know, you fast forward 7 years, he hired me back after he fired me to Miami. So, you know, you don't burn any bridges. But and then in Atlanta, you inherited a pretty good ball club with a lot of tradition, and we won. You know, we went to the playoffs a couple of years. The dreaded infield fly rule against that playing game against the Cardinals. And then in 2015 and 2016, our organization designed to change, right? To get rid of, to trade the Haywards, the Upton brothers, the Kimbrels, the
You moved
Simmons,
into a rebuild of
a
sorts.
rebuilding, and everything was all. And I'm going a long way to answer you this way. And everything was good. Everybody was in. And then in 16, we were awful. We were. I don't even know the record. I'm going to give
9 and
myself credit.
28, I read today.
What was it?
Yep, 9 and 28.
I didn't think it was even that good. but
You did
You
so
did better than you thought.
yeah, I did better. I thought we overachieved, but anyway, so everything going into that winter, everything was like, okay, kumbaya, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do the rebuild, and then 9-28 season, and I get fired. So I think the number one thing is, and Brandon, it keeps he has the focus of just getting these kids better and not worrying about the wins and loss record. I think that the organization has a plan, and I think if the organization is patient, right, and has commitment to Brandon, there's no reason why he can't see this through. The other people have done it.
It has been done before, but the guy I point to with Brandon, who's like the poster child, is Rich Renteria, twice in the same city, once with the Cubs and once with the White Sox, where they just weren't patient enough with him.
Right. And again, so a long story short, it's being patient. And one thing I could tell just by being around for 3 months, right? And this year you could ask me that question and I could answer maybe a little bit better. But I think the rapport and the relationship that Mike and Brandon have is big, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like it's just them two. There's nobody else. There's not there's not an owner that is that's in the way. There's not anybody else. It's Brandon and Mike making all the decision along with everybody else's assistants and stuff like that. So I think that's a plus. And watching that relationship be cultivate, I think it's good. I think it's good. But I don't think Brandon thinks that way. I think he goes out there and tries to develop players, put them in positions they're going to be successful. Always thinks about their health, right? There's been many times, for so long is like, with the Braves, you're going to win, you're going to win, you're going to win. And there's been times where we're like, hey, we can't use this pitcher out of relief because he's thrown 2 days in a row. And we're playing the Yankees and we won the first 2 games. And I'm going, what? We got a chance to sweep these guys? He's available. No, we can't use him. He's not available. But he has that in his conscience to make sure these kids are safe and injury free.
Ross, go ahead.
Hey, Freddie, you come from, Atlanta. You managed in Atlanta. You managed with Miami. You had success. And, we're talking about the Orioles. The last 28 years, they've been under 500 20 times. They've been fourth place or lower in a 5-team division 17 times. And they've been last 7 times in the last 13 years. That's a lot of losing. Now, coming from an organization like Atlanta, who has a history of success, what can you say to these players? Even what can you say to the staff that could be a benefit? I mean, you've been there, you've seen winning. It's got to be tough to just take lose 100 games a year for 2 or 3 times, and there's a lot of losing here. What can you say to these guys? Because I imagine they're gonna ask you, the players and what have you, questions, because it can't be fun to lose day in and day out.
I just want to point out that Freddie's record as a manager is over 500
Right.
in 10 seasons, 710, 692, which is pretty impressive. Go ahead, Freddie.
Even after that great 9-28 season in 16. But my thing when the players get down or losing, and you know what the hardest thing, and Brandon does a great job, is the coaching staff, right? Because we come down and after a game or after 7 in a row, 8 in a row, we could get down. But I think Brandon has done a really good job, really conscientious job to hire guys that are upbeat and they're positive. Because the players, I think the players, you could get them by saying, hey, listen, this is a great opportunity. Because if you were playing in Atlanta Braves and you got Freddie Freeman sitting in front of you or Acuna in center field, son, you're going to be in AAA for 10 years or get traded. So it's a great opportunity for you to showcase yourself. And we're getting better, Ross. We're getting better.
Yeah.
And you know what? And there's been models out there that guys have, we've lost for 2 years and all of a sudden they start getting better. I think what Mike is trying to do and this organization is trying to do, I think they're trying to build and be a winning organization for a long period of time, not to lose for 6 years, carry on all these draft picks, win for 3, and then get rid of them. You know, sustain winnability, I think is what Mike is trying to do, and build the farm system. The farm system. I see it a little bit. I saw it, 60 games, and I think that the last 25 or so, we started bringing some of these young arms up, right? And that's the quickest way for me, Ross, as you know, is to win, is bring good pitching up. And I'm excited to go. And I talked to Brandon the other day. I'm excited about our pitching staff and our bullpen.
Right.
They're and again, if you have 6, you need 8, right? If you have 12, you need 16.
Especially now.
Yeah, very now. So, but I like our young pitching staff. I like our outfield with I'm so happy that I'm hearing the reports that Mancini is good to go and he's great, that I can't wait to be around him, period, because I've heard such
Right.
great things about him. But if he produces, you got Santander, Mountcastle's little snapshot we got of him was like, wow, this guy's solid. We got the young Cuban kid Diaz that Anthony Sanders went to go see him a couple 2-3 days ago, and he looks great. We have Cedric Mullins in center field. For me, might be the best fundamentally sound center fielder in the big leagues right now. This guy never takes a bad route, and he is awesome. So I'm excited. I'm excited about that, and I think the biggest thing for Mike and the Orioles to do is to keep whatever you're doing, don't change the path, right? Because I think we have a lot of tendency to go, let's change because we've lost, 3 years in a row of 100 games. But I think the direction that he's going, it's good. And I think the players is like, hey man, you're getting an opportunity where you may not ever get if you were playing with, the New York Yankees or you playing with the LA Dodgers, because you all of a sudden you thinking you're the next guy coming up, and then they go out and get Mookie Betts. And you're,
Yeah.
you go sit. Yeah, thank you very much. Right. So I think the opportunities that the Orioles are getting, or in general, a team that is going to be losing or rebuilding, it's a good thing. And also, I think that our staff and Brandon has said this to me, and said it to Cousin, and said it to the coaching staff. They cannot let the players can't see us be negative. They got to
Right.
see us always be positive. And to his credit, he goes, and I need to be positive,
Yeah.
the hider. And he goes, Freddie, if you see me that I'm starting getting negative, you come into my office and you tell me. And because it's so
It
easy.
doesn't
Right?
happen that often with him. I mean,
No.
you can watch him when things get really going poorly, and his voice changes very rarely, but it does happen. And that's my question. You can get really frustrated when the base running, the defense, missing the
Right.
cutoff men.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And you know what, Russ? That's when he gets that 15 minutes before the media, and he comes into the coach's room and he vents, right?
Oh,
He
yeah.
vents. Yeah, he'll vent to us, and we'll,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, you're right, Skip. We'll address it tomorrow, And he goes, okay, takes a deep breath. He goes, I got to go put a face on it
It's
because
tough.
you know what? He
It's gotta be
knows.
tough.
Yeah, you got to be tough.
Yeah.
Because nowadays as soon as he comes out of your mouth, it's on Twitter. And every
Oh,
player
right.
knows,
Yeah.
so he knows all the players are listening, and all the players are
Yeah.
hearing his information, and so he's got to be really, really careful. And it beats up on everybody, but it's the stuff that we signed up for.
Freddie,
Right.
I want to touch on something. You were a catcher in your playing days, and both you and Tim Cousins kind of are the catching instructors here. First of all, let me ask you about Adley Rutschman. Did you get to spend enough time seeing him last spring training back in February and early March before the pandemic to understand what a special receiver he is?
He is a special player, period. And Tim does all the catching because he is the best catching instructor I've ever been around, ever. And so he does all the catching, and hell, I sit there and pick his brain and learn from him. But I saw enough of Adley during the short spring training, and then he was with us for the July camp a couple of times. And this guy's a special player, and I would if we had a full season last year,
Yeah,
we'd be talking right now. This guy's ready to play in 2021. And that's
what's that year of loss of development for guys like him and the pitchers, Grayson Rodriguez? What's that going to do to their growth as
we don't know, but and I'm not saying that Adley was going to spend the whole year in the minor
No, I
leagues last
understand
year,
that.
right? Because he might have come up in
Everything,
July or
yeah,
something,
yeah.
but it's an extra 300 at bats, and there's an extra 70, 80 innings for a pitcher, a young pitcher in the minor leagues, 100 pitch, I think not only us, I think everybody in our industry is going to run into this problem.
Yeah, it's an
21.
industry-wide problem. I wanted
Right.
to ask you one more question about catching, and it's not a knock per se on Pedro Severino or Chance Cisco, but I got to last year because of the pandemic. I watched all the playoffs. Mike Zunino, it's about 180. He's going to run into 10 to 14 home runs, but he's going to hit 180 to 200. But boy, I was so impressed with how he took charge of the pitching staff during the game, like almost like a jockey riding his horse over the finish line.
Right.
How much different can a catcher make that really knows how to control his pitcher?
Well, I think it's big. I think I've seen Molina. All
Yeah.
right. I've seen Molina change the course of a game
Yeah.
by just going and take a trip on the mound, and just kind of slow it down. And he has that. But here's a guy who's done it for what, 15, 16 years now. Molina has. I think Pedro has that opportunity, or that chance to do it, but he has not. He doesn't have that clout yet to go out to the mound and that veteran leadership. I think Chance has an ability to do that. I think, and also
But I
Pedro.
bet you Adley has it right now.
He has that presence. He
Yeah.
has that presence. And I think as a jockey, and depending on which of those horses you're riding too, because
Yeah.
you're riding Blake Snell, that's
Right,
that's a
you're right.
pretty
Yeah, I got you. Ross,
Yeah.
we got time for one or two more real quick with Freddie. Then you and I are going to talk a little bit
Right.
about how this season looks. Go ahead.
Gotcha. Yeah, Freddie, you know that this is Orioles are very analytically inclined. Uh, and in baseball now, it seems like a lot of the baseball people involved in it are being inched out of it. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. And you're right. I think I've experienced the last 2 years. My last year with Miami, and then this or 19 with Miami and 2020 with the Orioles. I have experienced more analytics or been exposed to more analytics than I've ever had uh, in my entire past. Jeter brought in a whole department, and then Mike brought in Sig, who was for me he was one of the best. Um, and it's one of those things, Ross, it's as a coach, right? You got to be open-minded, right? You got to read the numbers. I don't think they're asking you to write the formula, right? Of, what this means, but they'd like for you to understand. And I think if what we have, you and I, you coach and you play in the big leagues and you've coached and it's like that experience of coaching that analytical department doesn't have, right? And we don't have the analytical savvy to do these formulas. But I think together, I think down in the middle and the medium, you still need the human eyes. You still need and I get phone calls. I got one the other day, from a scout from another team. Hey, tell me about this player that you had last year, and he's a free agent, or he's in, tell me what he is. Tell me what do you think? And you tell him. So you still need those boots on the ground. But I think as old school people, or whatever you want to call us, you still need to be
In
open-minded.
the case of Ross and me, it's just old people. Yeah.
Pretty much.
You still need to be open-minded. You still need to have that experience. I tell you what, I have a great conversation with Sig about, he brings stuff up, and I've never seen, and I've been in the office with Mike in there, and I've never seen them push anything, and Brandon is pretty analytical, savvy himself, but they never push. Here's the information. This is what our computers are saying, and this is what my eyes are telling me. And you know what? Sometimes, you and I don't need to know what a good hell of a good curveball is, right?
Spin rate.
But they have, right. We have to now it's a spin rate. It's a different language, right? It's
a whole different ballpark.
When Stanton hits the back glass in the Marlins Stadium, I don't have to say that ball was hit pretty. I don't need the launch angle. I don't need the exit velocity.
Right.
I don't need any. That ball got touched.
Right.
Got hit. So it's a different language. It's a way to communicate, and it's been a learning experience.
Ross,
Well, we
one
did
more.
analytics. We did analytics with a pencil and a piece of paper and a ruler.
Yeah.
Right.
That was
Right.
ours.
Right. And it's like you hung a curveball. It's like, well, I don't know about the spin rate, but I hung that one because I didn't get it back.
It wasn't real good.
The
It
language,
wasn't real good. Yeah.
the language that's different is that the old school guys cuss a lot more than talk about the
Yeah.
formulas.
Oh,
Right.
Ross, you got one more for Freddie, and then we'll let him get out of here.
but go
You
ahead.
got-
I'm good.
All right. We really appreciate it, Freddie. We wish you much success here in Baltimore. We know that as Brandon grows into this job, I think you're an important piece
Really.
of what he's doing here. So thank you for spending some time with us.
Well, thank you, Stan and Russ, for having me. And I hope that we could do this for when we start winning again, right? And do it for a long time.
That sounds
All
good.
When are you heading to Florida?
Well, right now I haven't got an official date, but the last Zoom call was normal time. So I'm thinking February the 14th, 15th, 16th, right around there.
Yeah.
Knock on
All
wood.
right.
Well, maybe I'll
All
see you. We're heading down next week,
Okay.
and maybe we'll get a chance to see you.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right,
All
Thank
buddy.
you, Freddie.
Stay you. Bye-bye.
All right. Ross, you and I are going to hang around, and I'll remind
Yeah.
folks that Press Box Live is brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get your roof damage repaired for just the cost of your deductible. I thought what we'd do briefly after our conversation with Freddie, who I'm always very impressed with.
Really, absolutely. That's the reason they got him here. He's going to be a big. That's one of the reasons I asked the question. What are you going to say? What can you say to these guys? You've had success. You come from an organization, Atlanta, and Miami's had some success as well. And like I said, the Orioles, they're trying to get there, but he's got some great stuff to offer, I'm sure. And that was the reason I asked him what can he have to say to the staff and the players.
Yeah, and I think Brandon, having a guy who's done this for 10 years in the big leagues with the Marlins and
Right.
Atlanta, and Freddie probably will get one more shot at managing somewhere. But I thought what we do now is, because you and I were so skeptical or cynical about this baseball season starting on time. I mean, I look like a real fool for what I've talked about and written about. It looks like Major League Baseball is intending to push forward and play as close to 162 games and start the season right around April 1st. Is that how you're reading the tea leaves right now, Ross?
That's, from what the people I've talked to, it looks like spring training is going to go off without a hitch so far. And they're even talking about fans going in and watching the games.
Yeah.
At some particular point in time. Now, is this because of the vaccine? I know Florida they had a spike in some cases last, I think, 2 or 3 days. So it's kind of up in the air, I would think, but they are, everybody I've talked to, it's full speed ahead. Let's go. And as far as the season, 162 games, that could be, but I mean, you just got to, again, it depends on how this virus continues and grows, and how the vaccine, how that's distributed to everyone.
Yeah, it looks to me like their heart is in the right place. They don't want to get into the owners don't want to really get into sort of a pissing match with the players over this.
Gosh, no.
But I think the one thing we got to look at right now is the NBA. And the NBA is having a lot of canceled games and a lot of cases by the players.
Yeah.
If they go back into, and Major League Baseball didn't have the full bubble last year, but they limited travel and it was only 60 games. I think they'd be much wiser in coming to a joint agreement, maybe pay the players for 162, but say the season's going to be 140 and build in more off days or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, they haven't even come up with the rules this year, what they're going to have.
Right. We don't know if the National League's going to have the designated hitter or not. I think that's crazy.
Yeah, at this point in time now. So again, you read some things into that and you go, well, maybe they're not. It's hard to say, and there's so many ifs and going on. But it hopefully, like I said, as long as the people are saying that they're going to do it, stay positive and hope for the best.
Well, look, it's hard to imagine because we've all been sitting in our houses for 11 months, in our apartments, our
Oh,
townhouses, that we're looking at a snap of a finger. And as soon as the Super Bowl's over, they're going to be down at spring training in 5 or 6
yes,
days later.
right.
It's pretty crazy to think that way. Um, are you in favor of the designated hitter for both leagues at this point in
I,
time?
I know it extends jobs and everybody's for that. But again, as a pitcher, I like to hit. I think there's more. Uh, it becomes more of what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a challenge, but more strategy
Right.
in it. Now, obviously, it's a game now, a power game with hitting home runs and striking guys out. But I think they're going to have to find a way to make the game more interesting as far as getting back to put the ball in play. The shift. What are you going to do with the shift? Are you going to now? I'm starting to go. Don't put a guy in right field with the right fielder. Make them if they're going to shift. But again, if they outlaw the shift, it's not going to change anything really, other than the players are going to continue to hit that way. I mean, I watched some stuff the other night in the shift. The guys were hitting the ball the other way and getting doubles.
Well, one of the things I've heard the strategies about that rule would be to say, hey, you can play guys on the other side, but they can't be on the grass. They've got to
Right.
start on the ground. And
So
I think that would open up.
then they start changing the field.
Yeah.
They'll have the field where the infield is cut all the way to short right field.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's always a way to get around stuff, and they'll find a way to do it.
I want to ask you one of the most underrated issues. I think I don't see anybody talking about it, Ross. You've got starting pitchers like say a Blake Snell or Masahiro Tanaka, Clayton Kershaw, that threw what they had maybe 12 or 13 starts last year. So they might have pitched 60 innings.
Right.
How does the industry accomplish the number of innings in 162 games, even if they played 140? How many innings can a Kershaw, Tanaka, John Means, how many can they increase in one season from the last? Or have they built up now during the offseason to prepare for that a little bit more?
Well, the thing is now the starting pitcher is not as important as it used to be. Obviously, what does that do? Lowers the salary. How they get paid now? I pitched. I think the average start is under 5 innings, which is ridiculous, But it all starts at your minor league level everywhere, developing starting pitching. And you look back the last 10 years, and you could probably go back farther than that. Who wins the World Series? The teams with the best starting pitching.
No question.
So you can, and with, you got to have a staff of, 13, 14, 15 guys if you use the bullpen like they do. But I just think the starting pitcher has been put on the back burner, so to speak. And where are the games that Marichal against Koufax, Palmer against Seaver? People go to the ballpark to see that. Yeah. Now you don't know who you're going to get to start as the opener, but Tampa Bay had a good run with that. But the World Series, the idea is to win the World Series, and your starting pitching is going to give you that opportunity.
But to get back to my question, if a Scherzer was used to pitching 200 innings a season, 220, and last year he only pitched 50, can he go back to 200, or will he automatically get shaved down to 150, 160?
That's something that, again, it depends on with him. I think he's a guy that pitches. He adds, subtracts. He doesn't go full bore every single pitch like Saberhagen did, or not Saberhagen, but Syndergaard ended up having Tommy John surgery. And you see more of that because guys, they throw everything max effort, the breaking ball, max effort, fastball, and they never throttle down. It's full bore, and you've seen a lot of injuries. The bullpens, I think I have a stat that I saw that you might get 2 or 3 years out of a guy before, and then he breaks down. There's a lot more people breaking down because of the fact that it's full bore, and it just doesn't work. Some guys pay the price for it, and some their career will dwindle the other way because of that. So I think the starting pitching, can they do it? Of course they can do it because you're pitching. You're changing speeds and you don't go full bore every single pitch. And that's just a recipe for disaster and an injury. So, yeah, I think some guys can do it if they, but it starts at the minor league level too. But I think your pitchers in the big leagues that actually pitch can do that.
Do you think the rosters will be expanded, whether they're planning to play 162 or 140, whatever the number is? Don't you think they'll need a couple extra arms to be ready?
I wouldn't be surprised if they come up something like hockey, where you have
it's who you dress. You got like 28 or 20
guys that are extra that you can put in the game in a game, and the other guy comes off the roster that particular day. That could happen. I mean, I don't know, but it's all about this right here. It's all about that.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Ross Grimsley, we appreciate you being on with us. When are you leaving for Florida? Are you going to be with me next Monday?
Yeah, we're going to leave Tuesday morning. So I'll be down in Florida probably for a month, 6 weeks or so.
All right,
so we'll
good for you.
Go down there, hopefully get some good information if spring training is going on, and see what happens.
All right. Thank you for being with me tonight. We thank Fredi Gonzalez of the Baltimore Orioles for joining us. And we want to remind you that Press Box Live, which will be back Wednesday night, Gary Stein and I will break down the Ravens and talk to retiring AP writer David Ginsburg. Press Box Live is brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get your roof damage repaired for just the cost of your deductible, or go to c3america.com now to get a free roof inspection. Thank you, Ross Grimsley. We'll see you next Monday night.
Got you, buddy. Take care.
You too.